Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be amazing because I'm taking you guys on a behind the scenes of an actual photo shoot I did for an actual client in December, and it's going to be interesting because we're tackling different lighting scenarios. And so I feel like if you want to see how I solve real-time problems on the go, then this video is going to be for you. And also, if you're interested in Photoshop and photography related videos just like this one, then I think you should consider subscribing. If you haven't, that is, I know majority of you who watch the videos aren't subscribed, so hit the subscribe button. While you're there, you can also check out my digital store because I have amazing products on there. If you really want to have a workflow, a system for retouching, then my workflow actions is going to be great for you because I have two actions in there. There's one that's going to create all the layers that you need for retouching so that you have a consistent workflow, which is also going to help you get consistent results and also create like a signature for yourself. And then I also have individual actions where you can choose to run them at any point in time during your retouching process to give you more flexibility. I also have my new favorite tool, my color grading tool, where it makes color grading fun, it makes it interactive, and you see the results in real time, and so it makes it more like playful, just have fun with color grading. So I think it's a tool that you should check out. And maybe just over there as well, there are some freebies if you want to test some of my LUTs out. And then I also have some paid ones, my melanin skin tone LUTs if you're shooting dark skin. It's amazing for dark skin tones. I really think you should get that. All right, let's move on and start off with our very first photo shoot. Let me tell you about the problems I faced and how I used my tools to solve the problem. When you're in a location like this where you are shooting a number of clothes, the first thing I will ask you to do is survey the area. Look for interesting spots that you feel like you can shoot creatively in there just to add variety to the images that you're creating. Because if the client is shooting all these number of clothes in the same space, it's not a lookbook, remember, and it's also not an e-com where like you just have a plain white background and you're shooting against. This is a bit of like a lifestyle, so you need to find interesting, different looking locations to shoot just to make the shots a bit more interesting. Because then again, if they're posting on social media and it's the same background and it's the same models that you're seeing, even though the clothes are changing, it's going to look a little bit repetitive. And so if you're able to at least vary the background, vary the locations that you're shooting in or the spots that you're shooting in, it's going to add a bit more interest. And also train your eye to look for places that you can capture really interesting looking images. So for me, and the first thing that we were shooting, which was like a flowy dress, I just felt placing her in that mini garden against the white backdrop looked really beautiful and complemented everything that was going on. And so I felt that was where we could start our shoot from. But the main problem was the time of day that we were shooting. I think the sun was really high up and it was casting shadows directly down, and obviously that is not going to flatter anybody, especially if you have like these deep, long, defined shadows on your faces. And it's also not going to flatter the dress as much because all the shadows are dropping down. Even though it is a direction, you don't want that kind of direction to shoot at. You don't want your shadows falling straight down, otherwise it's going to give them raccoon eyes and things like that, and it's really not flattering for people. So what you want to do is have your light source at least 45 degrees to your subject. That way you're going to have really interesting looking lights on your subject, and if it does look good on them, chances are it's going to really look good on the outfits or the clothes or whatever it is that you want to display or capture. All right, so that's the problem. We wanted to get rid of those shadows and now introduce our own lights, so we have this beautiful flattering light on our subject. So what I did was, or I could have done this this in so many ways. I could have used a scrim to diffuse the sun, which I did, but I'm not using like an actual butterfly scrim, even though I have that. I just felt it would have been a little bit of a cumbersome setup because I needed 2 stands, I needed people to hold it and all of that, and we were shooting on the go. So I felt using a scrim in that instance was rather going to delay the shooting process, and I wanted to be able to move a little bit faster. Thankfully, I brought my 7-foot Westcott umbrella. Is the diffusion umbrella, the one that you can shoot through, and so I rather mounted that onto my C-stand, raised it all the way up, and used that as my scrim to block the sun and just create shade where I was shooting. So now that we have shade, it means that we don't have any directionality in terms of light on our subject. Everything is soft, everything is diffused, and that looked good. But I wanted to add a bit of pop, I wanted to add a bit of direction, and so I brought in my 35-degree deep focus reflector, and I used that to light up my subject. I just wanted to get a bit of direction of light on her face and also get a bit of catch lights in there as well, and this modifier did a really good job. I think that has become like my favorite modifier, especially if I'm shooting outdoors, just because of the texture and the feel or the quality of light that it creates. I had a diffusion sock on there, and so it wasn't really like a very defined hard light. It was soft, but it still added a bit of punch, and I absolutely loved it. One thing I also failed to mention was that I added in a reflector on the side just to bounce in a bit of light back, just so we're not creating very dramatic shadows. I wanted to soften that, and having the reflector in there did just that. So look at the image and tell me what you feel about it, or what you would have done differently in this case. So after we got this amazing shot of Matilda, the next location that we went into, I noticed that the sun had moved and we had a bit of direction on there, and it was really flattering, and we also wanted to capture a walking shot. And so I felt if I had my softbox or my light, my artificial lights basically on a stand positioned at one place and have them walking, it means that we're going to be limited in terms of space. So how do I solve that problem? I had to embrace the light that I was given, and because it had a bit of direction to it, I just felt it was a good chance for me to shoot with natural light. And so that's what I did. The fact that you're shooting for clients doesn't mean that you always have to go with artificial lights and use that to shoot for them. Just figure out what is working and figure out if you really need to introduce any light source or not, or if you can embrace what you're giving naturally, then you can use that, to your advantage, and then just shoot on the go. Again, because we're shooting a number of outfits and we wanted to be in and out really quickly, I didn't also want to have any tools hindering the shooting process. I wanted the process to be very smooth. And again, we had a director on set, we had a client on set, we had other people, like other moving parts, and so just being able to streamline the entire process made everybody's job really, really easy. And that is something that your clients will be grateful for, especially if they're able to move on time, move quickly, and get things out of the way. What I did was I had them phase the light, and so again it had a bit of direction in there, and they were able to walk, look at each other, and then I was able to capture beautiful images of them. I really loved the quality of light I was getting at that time. It wasn't too hard, but it was able to add a bit of specularity, a bit of rich tones in the image, and I really, really loved that. It was a little bit different from what we captured in the beginning, but again, I'm adding variety with contrast, with my lighting, with the background, all of those things, and it helped create very interesting looking images. So tell me how you feel about these images that we created as well. I was shooting with my Canon R5 and a Sigma 24-70R lens. Again, for versatility, I can shoot wide, I can shoot crop just by zooming in and out of my lens, and it also helped with my shooting process, making me work a little bit faster. So moving on to our third location and to our third model, I also noticed that where we were placing her, we had these beautiful light textures that were falling off on her, and it was really adding to the shot. And I also noticed that because of where the sun was coming from, it was bouncing off against that gray wall, and it was really filling in the shadows and giving us like a very good balance between a hard and soft light, and I really, really loved that. So I was getting that directionality from the sun lighting her up, and I was also getting those textures on her. I was also getting like a fill light from the bounce on the gray wall. It wasn't really as strong as if it was like a reflector or a white wall or something, but it was still enough just to open up the shadows and reduce the contrast that I was getting. So I just felt I wasn't going to add any artificial lights to take away from what I was naturally given. I just wanted to add a bit of variety to my shots again, and looking at what the natural light was already giving me, I did not want to take away from that. And so I placed her in there, I did a few test shots, and I captured this amazing amazing looking image as well. Alright, so now for our final shot, at this point the sun had gone down, we were shooting indoors, and we also didn't have a lot of large windows that was allowing a lot of light in there. But one thing I noticed was that where we chose to shoot, there was a window off on the side, and I wanted it to look like that was what was lighting her up, but it wasn't. Actually, there was no light coming through the window. So what I did was I used two lights for this particular shot. I first of all put my 400 watt light outside of the window and I shot through it. So I put the white shears together to soften that light that was coming in, and I just blasted the light through it, so it's gonna look like it's daylight that is entering our scene. But then again, because of where that window was, it really wasn't doing much to my subject, and so this is where my second light comes in. So I mounted another light through my 7-foot waistcoat umbrella, and I shot a light through that to light up my subject. But then again, if it really was natural light that was entering the room, and I can't create contrast with it depending on how close or further away I have her from the window, and because there was a bit of distance, I could get away with that shadow that was being formed on the other side. Granted, this large umbrella was spreading light everywhere. It was still not enough for it to look like it was just the window that I was using to light her up, and I wanted a bit of drama. I didn't want it to look too strobed or too artificial, and so what I did was I introduced a reflector, my large reflector, and put it on the opposite side of where the umbrella was, and it just filled in the shadows a little bit. But I think in editing I just increased the contrast and then added more depth, so I mean she pops off the background, and I feel like everything really came together really nicely. We were a bit delayed because there were a few changes that we had to make on set, and that is how come I was shooting that last shot a little bit later in the day where there was no sunlight coming through the window. The initial plan was to shoot that when we had natural light, and I'll see where I can use my artificial light sources to complement what I was already being given. But all in all, I feel like we were able to create stunning images for our clients. Let me know what you think as well, how varied these images look. The way I solve these problems, do you think it's the same way they're also going to tackle yours? If you would have done things differently, let me know in the comments down below. And you can check out my digital store. I have amazing products in there that's going to help you with your retouching game, your coloring game, and you know, if you copy anything, you're supporting the channel, helping me create free videos in the future. So go ahead and support your boy. I'll catch you guys in the next video, and remember, don't ever give up.